Imagine a time when Jewish kings ruled powerful kingdoms, built great cities, and shaped history. Yet many of these stories are forgotten today. How did these kingdoms rise? Why did they fall? And what lessons do they hold for us? This is not just history. It's a story of strength, survival, and pride. Stay with us until the end as we uncover the deep, hidden past of the Jewish people. To understand it fully, watch the video till the last moment. Picture a land where faith and power walked hand in hand, where kings ruled not just with swords, but with wisdom, courage, and devotion. This was the age of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, a time of triumph, unity, and divine promise. It was a golden era, a time when the Jewish people stood tall, shaping history with their own hands. It all began with a promise, a covenant between God and Abraham. From a wandering tribe to a mighty nation, the Jewish people endured slavery in Egypt, crossed the vast desert, and finally reached the land they had longed for, Eretz Yisrael. This was not just a homeland, it was destiny fulfilled. Under the leadership of Joshua, the land was conquered, cities were built, and the tribes of Israel settled. But true greatness was yet to come. It would take a king, a warrior, and a poet to unite this nation under one banner. That man was David. David was not born into royalty. He was a shepherd, a boy with nothing but faith and a sling. Yet he faced giants, both on the battlefield and in life. With one stone, he struck down Goliath, proving that faith is stronger than fear. As king, he united the scattered tribes, established Jerusalem as the heart of Israel, and laid the foundations of a kingdom that would shine for generations. But David's greatest gift was not his military victories. It was his heart. His psalms, written in moments of joy and sorrow, still echo in the prayers of the Jewish people today. But David's dream remained incomplete. He longed to build a house for God, a temple that would stand as a symbol of faith, unity, and divine presence. That dream would be realized by his son, Solomon. If David was the warrior, Solomon was the thinker. Blessed with wisdom beyond measure, he ruled with justice, knowledge, and diplomacy. Under his reign, Israel became a center of learning, wealth, and peace. And then, the greatest achievement of all, the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. This was not just a building. It was a miracle in stone, a place where heaven and earth met, where prayers rose like incense, where the Ark of the Covenant rested. For the Jewish people, the temple was the soul of their nation, a sign that God's presence was among them. But history is never still. Great kingdoms rise, and sometimes they crumble from within. After Solomon's reign, cracks began to appear. Rivalries, ambition, and political struggles split the kingdom in two, Israel in the north, Judah in the south. What was once a united people became divided, weakening their strength against the storms of history that were yet to come. This was the beginning of a struggle that would test the endurance of the Jewish people. Would they survive? Would their faith endure? The answers would be written in the trials and triumphs of the centuries ahead. History is filled with great empires, mighty nations that rose, conquered, and faded into dust. But the story of Israel is different. It is not just a tale of kings and battles. It is the story of faith, of a people chosen to carry a divine mission, of a kingdom that stood not only for power, but for purpose. This is the story of Israel and Judah, the heart of the Jewish people, the golden age of their history. But as with all great stories, this one too is filled with triumph and tragedy, with moments of breathtaking glory and heartbreaking loss. The journey did not begin with crowns and palaces. It began in chains, in the harsh land of Egypt, where the children of Israel were enslaved. For centuries they suffered, their cries rising to the heavens until a leader emerged, Moses, the man who would change their fate. Through miracles and plagues, through fire and water, he led his people to freedom, toward a land promised to them by God. But freedom was not enough. A people without unity, without law, could not survive. They wandered for 40 years, shaping their identity, receiving the Torah, and preparing for the day they would claim their land. And when they finally entered, it was under the leadership of Joshua, a warrior guided by faith, who led them to victory. Yet, true greatness had not yet arrived. The tribes lived scattered, often divided, ruled by judges and prophets. They needed something more. They needed a king. No one expected a young shepherd to change history. David was just a boy when he stepped forward to face Goliath, armed with nothing but faith and a sling. But with one stone, he did what armies could not. He struck down the giant, proving that courage and belief could conquer any enemy. This was the man who would unite Israel. As king, David transformed a scattered people into a powerful kingdom. He made Jerusalem its beating heart, bringing the Ark of the Covenant into the city, establishing it as the spiritual center of the Jewish world. Under his rule, Israel flourished. But David was not just a warrior. He was a poet, a man whose words, written in moments of joy and sorrow, would be sung for generations in prayers and psalms. Yet, David's greatest dream remained unfulfilled. He longed to build a house for God, a temple that would stand as a symbol of faith and unity. That dream would be left to his son, Solomon. If David was the warrior, Solomon was the thinker. Blessed with wisdom beyond measure, he ruled with justice and knowledge, bringing peace and prosperity to Israel. Under his reign, the kingdom reached its peak. Wealth flowed into Jerusalem. Knowledge spread far and wide, and rulers from distant lands came to witness the glory of Israel. But Solomon's greatest achievement was not in gold or power. It was in stone. The first temple, the house of God, stood as the crowning glory of his rule. Built in Jerusalem, it was more than a place of worship. It was the soul of the nation, a bridge between heaven and earth. Inside, the Ark of the Covenant rested, and prayers rose like incense, filling the air with devotion and hope. The Jewish people had never been stronger. But strength can be fragile. Even in the brightest light, shadows can form. And as Solomon's reign ended, cracks began to appear in the kingdom. What was once a united people now stood divided. Greed, ambition, and power struggles tore at the foundation of the kingdom. After Solomon's death, conflicts erupted, and soon the kingdom split in two. Israel in the north, Judah in the south. The once mighty nation was now weakened, vulnerable to the empires that surrounded it. The golden age of Israel was slipping away, and the darkness of conquest and exile loomed on the horizon. But the story was far from over. Because the Jewish people do not disappear. They endure. They rise again. And their faith, tested through fire, only burns brighter. This was just the beginning of the trials they would face. Would they survive? Would their legacy endure? The answer lies in the centuries that followed. The golden age of Israel had faded. The mighty kingdom, once ruled by David and Solomon, had long been divided, weakened by internal strife and external threats. The northern kingdom of Israel had already fallen to the Assyrians, and the southern kingdom of Judah had been crushed by the Babylonians. The glorious first temple, the heart of Jewish faith, had been reduced to ashes. But the Jewish spirit could not be destroyed. Even after exile, even after generations of suffering, they returned. They rebuilt. They dreamed of restoring the strength they had once known. And for a time, that dream seemed possible. Enter Herod the Great, a man who would reshape the land of Israel like no other before him. His name still echoes through history, both in admiration and controversy. Was he a savior or a tyrant? A great king or a servant of Rome? The answer, like his rule, is complex. Herod was not born into the line of David. He was an Edomite by blood, a people once conquered by the Jews. Yet, through political genius and an iron will, he rose to power, securing the throne of Judea under the shadow of Rome. He was not fully accepted by his own people. Many saw him as a foreigner, a puppet of the Roman Empire. But Herod was determined to leave his mark. If Solomon had built the first temple, Herod would ensure that the second would surpass it in beauty and grandeur. He took the small, modest structure built by the returning exiles and transformed it into one of the most breathtaking wonders of the ancient world. White marble gleamed under the sun. Gold shimmered from its rooftops, and its massive walls stood as a testament to Jewish resilience. For the Jewish people, it was more than just a building. It was a sign of survival, of hope, of divine connection. Pilgrims traveled from all corners of the land to stand within its courtyards, to offer prayers, to witness the greatness of what had been rebuilt. But beneath the surface, tension was rising. Herod's reign brought wealth, architecture, and stability. But it also brought fear. His loyalty to Rome came at a price. Heavy taxes, brutal enforcement, and a deepening division between those who accepted foreign rule and those who longed for true freedom. The people murmured in anger, waiting for a leader who would restore their independence. And when Herod died, the cracks in his kingdom could no longer be hidden. Rome tightened its grip on Judea, appointing governors who cared nothing for Jewish tradition. The frustration grew into resentment. Resentment turned into defiance. And soon, defiance would turn into open revolt. The Jewish people had lost their kings, but not their courage. As Roman oppression intensified, a new fire was lit in the hearts of those who still remembered the glory of David's rule. They refused to bow to a foreign empire. They refused to let their identity be erased. The coming storm was inevitable. The Jewish revolt was on the horizon. And with it, the fate of the Second Temple and the future of the Jewish nation would be decided. The Jewish people had known the pain of exile. They had seen their kingdom divided, their temple destroyed, and their freedom stripped away by mighty empires. Yet, they never surrendered their faith. Even in the darkest times, they held on to the dream of sovereignty, the hope that one day, the land of Israel would once again belong to its people. That hope would be tested under the rule of the Greeks. But it would also give birth to one of the most extraordinary moments in Jewish history, the Maccabean Revolt and the rise of the Hasmonean kingdom. After the conquests of Alexander the Great, the land of Israel fell under the rule of the Seleucid Empire. At first, life continued as usual. The Jewish people adapted to Greek influence while holding on to their traditions. But soon, that balance was shattered. A new king, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, ascended the throne. He did not want to rule over the Jews. He wanted to erase them. He banned Jewish practices, outlawed the Torah, and desecrated the Second Temple by placing Greek idols inside its sacred walls. He demanded that the Jewish people worship foreign gods. Those who resisted were tortured, humiliated, and executed. It seemed as if Jewish identity itself was under attack. The people of Israel had been conquered before, but never like this. This was not just a war of swords. It was a war against their very soul. And that was a war they could not allow themselves to lose. In a small village, an elderly priest named Mattathias refused to bow. When a Greek official demanded that he sacrifice to pagan gods, Mattathias struck him down, sparking a revolution. His 5 sons, led by the fierce and brilliant Judah Maccabee, gathered a small army of Jewish rebels. They were outnumbered. They had no powerful weapons, no great army, no alliances with foreign powers. But they had something far greater: faith. With courage burning in their hearts, they took to the mountains, launching a guerrilla war against the mighty Greek Empire. Against all odds, the Maccabees fought back. Battle after battle, they defied expectations. The Greeks had their war elephants, their vast legions, and their superior tactics. But the Maccabees had something that could not be measured on a battlefield: the unbreakable will of a people fighting for their survival. And then the impossible happened. The Jewish rebels defeated the Greek forces. They marched into Jerusalem, hearts pounding with victory, and took back the temple. They purified it, cleansing the sacred space that had been defiled. And when they went to relight the menorah, they found only enough oil for one day. But the flame burned for 8, a miracle that would be remembered for generations as the story of Hanukkah. For the first time in centuries, Israel was independent. The Hasmoneans, the family of Judah Maccabee, became kings. The land was free from foreign rule. The Jewish people could worship without fear. But as history had shown before, victory was never the end of the story. The Hasmoneans expanded their kingdom, growing stronger, wealthier, and more powerful. But with power came ambition, and with ambition came division. Internal conflicts began to weaken the unity of the Jewish people. Corruption crept into the royal court, and disputes over leadership grew violent. The once mighty Hasmonean kingdom, built on faith and struggle, fell into civil war. Seeking to restore order, rival Jewish factions invited the Romans to mediate their dispute. But Rome did not come to help, it came to rule. The Jewish people had fought so hard for freedom, but now a new empire had arrived. The fate of Israel was once again in danger. Would they rise again? Or would history repeat itself? The Hasmonean dream of Jewish independence had crumbled. In its place, Rome had tightened its grip, turning Judea into a land ruled not by its own kings, but by governors who answered to an empire far away. Yet in this darkness, one man rose to power, Herod the Great. Herod was a ruler trapped between two worlds. He was Jewish by name, but his loyalty lay with Rome. To his people, he was a king. To the empire, he was merely a servant. But if he could not win their love, he would command their awe. And so, he built. Jerusalem became a city of wonders. The Second Temple, once a modest structure, was transformed into a masterpiece of stone and gold, shining like fire under the sun. Yet beneath the beauty, resentment grew. Herod's rule was marked by fear. Spies in every corner. Dissent crushed with blood. The people waited, praying for a savior. And when Herod died, their anger could no longer be contained. Revolts erupted. Rome struck back with merciless force. The temple, the heart of the nation, was reduced to ash. The Jewish people faced exile once more. But their spirit? That would never burn away. The flames of Jerusalem had long died down, but the fire in the hearts of the Jewish people never faded. The Romans had destroyed the Second Temple, exiled thousands, and crushed revolts with brutal force. Judea was bleeding, but it was not broken. And then a new leader emerged, Simon Bar Kokhba. To his followers, he was not just a warrior, he was a Messiah, the chosen one who would restore Jewish sovereignty. Against all odds, his forces rose like a storm, reclaiming cities, driving the Romans back. For a fleeting moment, Judea was free again. A Jewish kingdom, reborn from the ashes. But Rome was an empire that did not forgive. In a fury unmatched, Emperor Hadrian sent his most elite legions. The battle was merciless. Bar Kokhba fought to the last breath, but the Romans crushed his forces. The land was soaked in blood, the Jewish people slaughtered or enslaved, and in an effort to erase them forever, Rome renamed Judea to Palestina. But names could not erase a people, exiled, scattered, persecuted, yet unbroken. The last kingdom had fallen, but the Jewish spirit? It would outlive every empire that tried to destroy it. The legacy of Jewish kingdoms, a story of survival. The last Jewish kingdom had fallen, but the Jewish people did not. They had lost their land, their temple, their freedom, but they refused to lose themselves. Empires rose and fell. Conquerors came and went. But the Jewish spirit endured. It survived exile, persecution, and centuries of wandering. How? Through faith, resilience, and an unbreakable identity. The Torah became their homeland. Their traditions became their fortress, and their unity became their shield. No empire could erase what was written in their hearts. And today, their story is not just history. It is inspiration. The struggles of the past shaped the strength of the present. The dream of a Jewish homeland never faded, and after 2,000 years, it became a reality. Israel stands today as proof that a people who refuse to forget will never be forgotten. This is more than just a history lesson. It is a reminder that no matter how many times you fall, you can rise again. If this story inspired you, make sure to like this video, watch it till the end, and subscribe for more incredible stories of resilience, history, and identity. The Jewish kingdoms may have fallen, but their spirit? It lives on.